Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to the next session of Greek videos. What I want to do, we've had a few lessons since I did the last video, if you are in my New Testament Greek class at San Diego Christian College. And the main thing I want to focus on in this video is diagramming. You're at a point and you're in a series of chapters where, for the most part, you should be able to follow what is going on in the chapters, except for, as we've talked about in Ray Summers' Essentials of New Testament Greek, he does not teach diagramming. In his chapter on the Greek sentence, he kind of gives you a little bit of a system for diagramming, but it's a very poor system. It's not the one that most Greek diagrammers use. And so what I want to do is I want to focus on diagramming a few things that you may have already started to see and you will be seeing. Now, you have had sentences on adjectives. You've had sentences on, I believe you're on a sentence on personal pronouns right now, and in there was also a lesson on prepositions. So I want to focus on those things in diagramming, and I also want to focus a little bit on compound sentences, because even though we have not gotten to the chapter on conjunctions yet, you are still seeing a few compound sentences. So let me go ahead and explain how that works. I want to give a little bit of an English background here, and then I will put this, do a couple of sentence diagrams that show us how some of these things come together. I'm going to do at least one diagram in lesson 8 and maybe one diagram in lesson 9 that's going to kind of bring these things together. But first of all, we're going to get to an entire lesson on conjunctions in the future, but for now, let me just focus on two different kind of conjunctions you're going to see. There are, let me actually give you 3. Why not make it a good 3 for, I think so too. There is a coordinate conjunctions, and coordinate conjunctions are usually words like and. Well, and is our main coordinate conjunction. So when you see a word that has and in New Testament Greek is usually kai. Kai can also be translated with the words even or also, and maybe a few other things, but kai is usually going to be and. We have contrastive conjunctions. And here, our primary contrastive conjunction is going to be but. There's a few different ways you can say but in Greek. The primary one being Allah. All right. So when you have either one of these conjunctions, what you often have, oftentimes they are giving you two different sentences that are kind of on an equal playing field. And so the way we're going to diagram these is we would put we often call this a rocket ship. We would put one sentence up here, one sentence down here. They are connected by the conjunction, and we would put like a ... and then kai, or that could be an Allah. It really depends on the sentence. This and that. He went to the store and, I don't know, he went to the park. Or sometimes it's like not this, but that. If we had but, it is not green, but it is yellow, something like that. It's not my favorite, but it is my least favorite. That sort of thing. Okay, so that's some of what's going on there, and you will see this. That is a coordinate conjunction. And a coordinate conjunction connects two independent clauses, which brings up a very important point. There are independent clauses and there are dependent clauses. Independent clauses, if you could make each of them their own sentence and it would make perfect sense. So, yeah, like he went to the store is one independent sentence. It makes sense all on its own. He went to the park. That's another independent sentence, independent clause. But you can also put them together with a coordinate. He went to the store and he went to the park. It's not my favorite. That could be a statement all on its own. It is my least favorite. That could be a statement all on its own. But you put it together and you can use the contrastive. Well, it's not my favorite, but it is my least favorite. That's my favorite quotation from the TV show Parks and Recreation, if you were wondering why I keep using it. It's kind of a goofy sentence, but it's a really funny quote in context. All right, enough of that. Okay, so that would be our coordinate conjunctions with two independent clauses. Another thing you're going to see eventually, I don't think you're seeing this yet, but I do want to show you. So this is with independent clauses. But some conjunctions introduce what we call a subordinate clause. And it's called a subordinate clause because it doesn't make any sense without the main clause. And so usually these will be introduced with words like therefore or because or that. And that is kind of shorthand for possibly in order that or with the result that. We'll deal with this a lot more when we get to our chapter on conjunctions, but for now, if you have two clauses and one of them is a subordinate clause, here's how this works. You put one up here, and then you put a line going down like that. And in the middle of the line, you put your conjunction. Like a conjunction that means because is the conjunction haughty. And you'll see that eventually. So we would put a haughty like that. And then we'll put our other clause down like this. So we could do, for example, I agapo I love Jesus. I agapo Jesun. Hati he agapai me. Yes, that actually means me as an accusative in Greek. Me. I think that should be in the section on personal pronouns. I love Jesus because he loves me. Now, if we were to say because he loves me, you would be like, what because he loves you? What do you mean because he loves you? But if I say I love Jesus because he loves me, it introduces the cause or the reason for that. So that's how we do a subordinate conjunction, and you're going to see examples of that. So we'll come back to that at a later point. I just wanted, just in case that creeps up on you, I wanted you to know that. Now, back to coordinate sentences for a minute. When you have a compound sentence, you don't always have two subjects. Sometimes you have a single subject, and that's going to alter your rocket ship. But a compound sentence means you have two verbs. Sometimes you have, let me just show you a few things, all right? Sometimes you have two subjects with one verb. That's a little oblong, but you're going to forgive me. We would do our chi here. I don't know, God the Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And then we would put our verb there, and there might be direct objects. But so sometimes you can have that would be called a compound subject. But for it to be a compound sentence, of course, we need two verbs. I already showed you what it would look like if there were two subjects, but if there was one subject with two verbs, it would look like that. Jesus loves the men and loves the women, something like that. Or, I don't know, we could think of any number of examples. But so sometimes you have the subject and two verbs, and you notice that the verb line goes after the subject, so you only have one verb line in that case. Sometimes, friends, you're going to see a compound direct object. It'll look like this. Subject, verb, and then we have our direct object line. Pardon, let's get that. Let's put it there. And then you have business to this effect. And then you have two direct objects. You're also by no means limited to two direct objects. There could be three, there could be four. The same thing with the subjects. But the point is these are different kinds of compound things. For a compound sentence, you have more than one verb, pardon me. But if you have you can have a compound subject, which is two subjects separated by chi without having a compound sentence. You can have a compound direct object, which means two direct objects, and so or more. But the point being, if there's two verbs, then you have a whole compound sentence. I hope this isn't leaving you behind too much, but usually the best thing to do is to see this actually in action. Here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to diagram a sentence or two from lesson 8, and I mentioned how you're starting to have prepositions. I've given you some charts on prepositions. Hopefully you've read that chapter carefully, maybe one or two times, but as you're working on these sentences, I am going to show you how to diagram prepositions as well as how to, do these compound sentences in action. Remember, friends, that if you are in my class on Populi, you do have, under the info section, you do have Professor Thomas Rahm's diagramming guide. Please use that. Download it and use it. And it answers a lot of these questions, but I know sometimes it helps if you have an interpreter. That'd be me. All right, so here we go. He's racing me. Okay. So, I'm not going to write the whole sentence out for you, but I am going to write it out in the diagram. Let's see. So I am on lesson 8. 8.7 gives us some sentences here. And the one that I want to do, where did it go? I had it all worked out. Oh man, here I am wasting all of this time on here. But I had one that was compound, and now it got away from me. There it is. There it is. Number 12. So if you have Ray Summers' textbook, I'm on page 38, and we're looking at number 12. And I'm going to read it out loud in Greek. Ha anthropos legai agathon logon to mathete kai age tous quius eis ton oikon. Now, I'm not going to translate it for you until I do the diagram, because I want you to get used to diagramming, then translating, because that saves us from so many pitfalls. And I'm going to, might save us from pitfalls too, but mostly pitfalls. I'm going to talk through this diagram as we do it. Okay. So, the first thing we want to do is look for the verb, and this is where we note that there are actually two verbs, legai and agai, and they are separated by a kai. Next thing we want to do is look for the subject, and we want to see if there is a stated or implied subject. But you will note that there is a nominative, but there is only one nominative. It is singular, and the two verbs are singular, and that tells me that we have a compound sentence with a shared subject between the two verbs. Let me put this down for you so you can see what the kid is talking about here. Our verbs are legai and, if memory serves, agai. Now, I want you to know that both of them end with the epsilon iota ending, which means that when we parse them, we're going to find that other than the root word, they parse the same way. I'm going to write this one time for you. We have a present, active, indicative, third person, singular. Now, it would be of Lego here, it would be of ago here, but the main thing is these are both the present, active, indicative, third singular. The singular is important here because we have a nominative which is ha anthropos. And if we were to parse this baby, we would say it is nominative, masculine, singular noun of anthropos, which means a man. And I'm not writing that all out right now, but notice we got singular here, we got singular here, and that's how we know that it can be the subject. So, to start with, so far we know that we have a man who speaks and leads. Now, the rest of the sentences are going to be, the rest of the clauses, I should say, are going to be separated by our chi, which means that the first clause goes all the way to mathete, if you're looking at that on number 12 on page 38. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is figure out, do we have a direct object? And we certainly do. It is an accusative noun logon. Now, the noun here, man, we're working with a lot of things because a noun is modified by an adjective which agrees with it in person, gender, and number. Agathon. Agathon means good. You would need to in your homework. I'm skipping a lot of steps here, but that you would have to do in your homework because our focus right now is diagramming. But agathon from agathos means good. That is one of the adjectives you learned. All right. And then we have this dative. It could be dative, locative, or instrumental, but in this case we are going to identify it as a dative. I'm going to give you that one because a dative makes sense in context. If we were going to go through all the different categories, I promise you dative is going to make the most sense. So it's going to be our indirect object, to mathete. If you can't see that very well, you can see it in your textbook. To mathete. Now, agai, let's see what it's followed by. We have an accusative masculine plural noun with an article, of course. So we're going to put our direct object line here. Tous quius, which of course means the sons, plural, because it is in fact plural. And then we have our prepositional phrase. Here's how we do prepositional phrases. Prepositional phrases almost always go under the verb because they either tell us the direction that the verb is taking us, or they tell us the location wherein the verb is being carried out. The action is being carried out. As you hopefully know from the lesson, verbs, what they do is they tell us direction or location. In this case, it's going to be direction. Ice is our preposition, and ice can mean a few things, as you know, depending on what word it's being used with. and what case, pardon me, especially what case it's being used with. Here it's being used with an accusative. Eis, ton, oikon. And so when we diagram this, we put the preposition in a little place like that with a line, and then ton, oikon. And so, the noun, whatever it is that follows the preposition, follows it this way on the diagram. Again, note, the preposition is put down from the verb on a / line. Then it goes in its own slot. We have a preposition line separating it from the noun. And then the noun tells us the direction it is going into or the location that the verb is being carried out on, depending on which preposition we're dealing with. So what do we have here? Ha anthropos legai means the man speaks. The man. I'm going to even, instead of speaks, I'm going to say says. A word. What kind of word? A good word. To indirect object, the disciple. And he leads, man, don't have a lot of room here, but we could write leads here, that's what it means. He leads the sons into the house. So if we were going to take that diagram, and if the chicken scratch that I've written around it confuses you, you can always back up the video and just freeze it to look at the diagram before you see what I'm doing there. But once I've done that diagram, and I've put every case ending in its possible place, I almost forgot to put the chi here. My bad, but we have the and there. Now we're going to do our translation based on our diagram, which is the man says a good word and leads the brothers, pardon me, that, just testing you, the sons into the house. Ta-da! Are you excited yet? So that gives you some information about how you're going to go about this, my friends. And I know this is a long video, but I do want to give you one more example from the next lesson, lesson 9. Because in lesson 9, you have personal pronouns. Now, pronouns stand in place of nouns. You understand that. There's a lot of different declensions for personal pronouns on that page, which is page 39 in your textbook, 39 and 40. It goes through all these different personal pronouns. But what you need to understand about personal pronouns is they pretty much diagram the way nouns do, which means if they're nominative, they're usually going to be your subject. If they're accusative, usually the direct object, dative, indirect object, etc. Go back and review those case endings. We have a video on that. You have it in a chapter. And remember what these case endings tell us. Honestly, as I grade homework, that's what I find a lot of times is some of you guys forget what case endings mean and what cases do. Go back and watch the videos on that. Pardon me. Review the chapter on it. This tells you so much information of what you would need. But so when we have pronouns, they will do what their case endings would normally do. Let's erase a little. I hate to waste time in the video, but we're still going to. We can sing our song by Caroline Jones while we do it. He's erasing me. Do 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 do. He's erasing me. And the whiteboard has to admit that it likes it a little bit. Okay. One more sentence here to kind of show you what we're talking about. Let's go with number 6. one of the things we've talked about before as well is that linking verbs do not take a direct object. Linking verbs are forms of the word is. And because they're state of being verbs, a linking verb is a state of being verb. There's no action. It's just state of being. If I say I'm standing here, I am, well, let's take a different one. Standing could be a verb. I am Professor Vic. Now, I'm not particularly necessarily doing anything that is that we could call Professor Vic-ing. I just am. That's who I am. And so it doesn't take a direct object. So our predicate will be in the nominative case. And that's what we have going on here in number 6. And it's using a different conjunction than kai, but the conjunction is still going to be translated as and, because and is one of the possible translations. The conjunction is de. So in number 6, I have ego eimi doulos su de I mathetes. Now, let me just put this up here for you. Here's how this is going to work. It is a compound sentence, and it has 2 personal pronouns. Now, de, we're going to translate as and. But our subject is the personal pronoun for I, which is ego. For a mnemonic device on this one, now sometimes, of course, the personal pronoun can be built into the verb, but sometimes it's stated for emphasis. The word ego comes from ego. The word eimi means I am, so ego eimi is I am. Incidentally, a lot of the I am statements from Jesus in the Gospel of John use this little phrase, ego eimi. It goes back to Exodus 3:14, where God says, I am that I am. And in the Greek Septuagint, the Greek version of the Old Testament, ego eimi is used. Are you excited yet? Usually when I say, are you excited yet, there's no reason you should be excited, but you actually should be excited about that. Okay, ego eimi, and then we have a predicate. When we have a predicate with a linking verb, instead of a direct object line, which is straight, we have a predicate line, which is a backslash like that. Doulos. Ego eimi doulos. De. Su is a nominative for you. The de goes. It came after the subject, but it still separates those two. Now I here epsilon iota with these little doohickeys. That means you are. You can look at that in the paradigm you're given for the linking verbs. And then, again, we have a predicate line. What does that say? Now, I know that's not completely even, pardon that, but it says, I am a servant and you are a disciple. I am a servant and you are a disciple. So just note that if you were to decline those personal pronouns, you would find that they were both nominative, and so they are functioning as the subject of the sentence. All right, friends, please keep reading the chapters carefully, and as I always say, make sure you're emailing me or texting me or calling me if you have questions beyond what we're doing. But this is just giving you a little more diagramming information. I hope it will help as your homework continues. Thank you, and we will talk to you next time.